Welcome back to Bulletproof Mindset, Scotland's #1 health, fitness and entertainment podcast. Today I welcome a very special guest, Lindsay Gilchrist, or he's also known as Mr. Aroma. Lindsay is a phenomenal character, and today's conversation was exceptional, diving into the story of his life, all the achievements he's had, the ups, the downs, and also the challenges that he's faced on his own personal battles, and how he's managed to persevere through them and build very successful businesses throughout that. And it was an absolute pleasure having him on the show. Now, before we get into today's episode, really quickly, if you're new around here, I need a favour from you. If you do like the chat that we had today and you like this sort of style and you'd like to see Lindsay come back on the podcast for a future episode, then please leave a little rating on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, or if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below this video and like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. All this sort of stuff is free to do and it just helps the show out massively. It allows me to keep the lights on and keep the place running, believe it or not. So let's not waste any more time. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have a great day. From a fitness perspective, I mean, you look pretty good for being 80-year-old, mate. I'm only joking. 79, aye.
So I've got another year to go.
Aye.
I love training.
Aye.
You know,
has that been a thing throughout your whole life?
My whole life. There was a period in my life when I couldn't train, and I was working for different building companies,
right?
And they were 7 days a week.
Aye.
So you were leaving the house at 7 a.m. to 7 o'clock at night. And I did that for about 8-9 years between 3 different companies. And I always remember walking down a corridor one day. Mm-hmm. You went down some stairs, walking along the corridor, and I thought, something rubbing off my belt. And as I'm walking, and I'm looking, and it was my belly.
Was that the first time noticing?
That was the first time I noticed. And weight creeps up on you.
What age were you then?
36.
Right.
36, something like that.
That's the midlife crisis, maybe.
I don't know. I've had plenty of them. Well, that's not just the first one. But then later on that day, there was photographs taken because I was presenting somebody with an award, and normally you'd have the suit on, but that day I just had my suit jacket off, so I had my shirt and tie on, and it was a side view. So when I got the picture later on that day, I had a fucking belly, and I thought I need to do something about this.
Right.
So I was kind of drinking a wee bit heavily as well. And I thought, right, I gave up the drink. I had a bad experience the weekend before anyway, when my brothers were out and just went over the top, and I thought, no, I'm not doing this again. So I stopped drinking, and that stopped me nibbling. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until I set up my own business. I started a tiling business called Versatile in Craigduke of all places.
Right.
Great wee business, and it gave me the flexibility to be able to go and start training.
Was this the first business you'd opened up
first
yourself,
business
was it,
opened
right?
up myself, yeah.
What, so when I was kind of looking through, I thought, I don't know, I only met you a couple of years ago working at Gym 24, and I know a lot of my friends in that during high school went to Aroma. I thought you always had Aroma, like for way back when. So
a lot of them went to, I had a place before called Munchies,
right,
which was down the main street
across
the Rovers. Mm-hmm. And that's where I met a lot of young kids, 12-year-old,
coming in for school,
sausage baguette and a can of brew for £2, you know. And you know the beautiful thing for me, I mean, I started that 25 years ago.
Aye.
You know, so now I've got the kids coming in with their kids.
Their kids, it's crazy. Seeing them all grown up.
Aye.
That's amazing.
I find it amazing because I've got people who, when I opened Aroma 17 years ago, there was a breastfeeding group who adopted us. Okay. And there's now about, I don't know, 10, 15 women, and every twice a week or something like that, breastfeeding their weans, right? And that was fine. You went in that other corner, discreet.
I gave the private.
They were friendly with it when it comes to that. I've now got their kids.
They're grown up.
Shop with their pals, and it's like I love it because it's like I still feel cool. Mm-hmm. You know, the place is still cool, and we're still relevant.
You've kind of evolved with the times and all that, and I want to get into all this, but you've of course, you're not 80 years old. How old are you for the guys listening?
65.
Right, so if you're tuning in, you're watching, you don't look 65. I mean, I've had the pleasure of training tons of people over the age of 50, 60, and even 70, and you win your movement and what you're doing, like academically, with business wise and all that sort of stuff. So you're keeping sharp. So there's a lot of stuff kind of going on in your life.
Aye, if it wasn't for the gym, and the safety net that gives you, it's like I can have a real crap day. It's like waves of stress coming over you, different things happening, and I put my headphones on and punish myself in the gym.
Right.
My ex-wife used to say that I did it to hurt myself.
Right.
And it's a bit like the Johnny Cash song, I Hurt Myself Today.
Aye.
And it is that, because it's like I don't want to be that old man.
Aye, so you maybe see it as punishment, but is it actual punishment? Because I guess it's like that compound interest, isn't it? You know, the work you're putting in is keeping you away from being that.
Aye, it keeps me mentally stable, for want of a better word. But it's just so important, and I try and stress this to younger people that I see now that are maybe starting off in the gym or saying they hate the gym and things like that, and saying, well, you're just approaching it wrong. I've changed the style of training I do over the years. I did the mad thing where I think I got up to about 13 stone at one time many years ago, and was like a wee brick shithouse, but movement wasn't really good.
Aye.
So just keep training and thinking, well, that's not really for me.
Exploring different
I
parts.
looked odd because I'm short, so you don't know why. You know
Swag 'em.
Aye, you've seen them.
Aye,
you know
no
what I mean?
stiff.
Can't get the
Aye,
arms at
too
your sides.
stiff. Aye.
And I thought I trained a bit lighter, did a bit different things, started a bit of boxing. I was always into my karate when I was young. I got a second dan in Shotokan karate, but I was one of the people who introduced knockdown karate in Scotland, 1984.
Right.
That was a really hard time. We had to go down south really to
Aye, because it wasn't here.
It wasn't here. But that was a thing where you fought for 3 minutes, and it was semi-full contact. You weren't allowed to directly hit to the face, but you could roundhouse. Mm-hmm. You could knee, but you couldn't grab. You to use your hands to pull the head towards you. There was different rules in it. But you fought for 3 minutes, battered, leg kicks and all that, battered each other for 3 minutes. If the twos were still standing, then you fought for another 2 minutes.
Right.
If the twos were still standing after that, they weighed you, and the lightest person won the fight.
Really?
That was how it worked.
That's mad. Why?
Because the heavier person had the advantage.
Ah, right, okay, right.
It was. This is pre.
What's this called? Knockdown
karate.
Is it still?
No, I don't think it's that. This is all pre your MMA and pre your grappling and all this kind of thing.
Just
two
guys got at it.
Two guys just battered. And the thing was, see, for the first minute, it was thigh kicks.
Aye.
Weaken. I'm lucky I've still got a nose, because it was a hard game, but it was so enjoyable.
Aye, so you enjoyed that side of things.
There's rules in it. Mm-hmm. It's not like a street fight. Mm-hmm. Street fight, I shite myself. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
But
it's like a sport. You get to compete. Within the rules of the sport.
There's parameters there. Lucky I was always the latest one, so if I could stand for 5 minutes, I did all right.
You can move about. So you're 65 years old, and when I speak to any of my clients who are working out and they've been working out, or I've came across people who are working out in their later years of life, and that again very similar. It's like, look, I don't want I don't want to as much as I'm aging, I don't want to feel old. Now there's a misconception out there that as you get older, things just give up on you and slow down, and fitness is a big part of. I ask like my dad and my family who are in their 50s, and I'm like, you should be doing this. It's like, nah, I'm too old for that sort of stuff.
I hear that.
How does that conversation, or what does that conversation look like in your circle of like your peers and that sort of stuff?
The difficulty for me is I don't have any peers of my same age.
Right.
I tend to.
Is that the secret then?
That's got a lot to do with it, because throughout my working life, particularly the last 20, 25 years, I've always worked with people years younger. Mm-hmm. I've now got people who could be my grandchildren working for me. Do you know what I mean? And the way they look at life and their attitude to life is totally different from my generation. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not very PC. So I need to be careful now
Aye.
what I'm doing, although I'm not that careful. But I warn them when they start. But the peers, people my age don't really train.
Yeah, it's like...
They don't train, and when they do train, they don't train hard. I go to the Hilton in Belsill, and I'm not going to degrade anybody, right? But I see a lot of people who've been in there. I've been there, gone in and out there for about 10 years. I've seen people in there who have no changed, who go in and do the same thing every time they go in, and they have absolutely no change to their body. If anything, they've maybe expanded a wee bit. And it's because they might be being consistent, but they're not challenging. And I think that the gym, for me, is somewhere where I challenge myself. You know, I can, it's like bench pressing. You know what I mean? I'll maybe not do bench pressing for months. I'll do dumbbell presses, and then I'll try the bench. And I can surprise myself with what I can do in a bench. I can do over 100 kilo in a bench press. So, and I'm only 11 and a half stone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of people don't challenge themselves, and it's a consistency thing, and it's consistently challenging.
Yeah. Aye, well, you need to see, like, there has to be a bit of, like, resistance in terms of what you're doing.
Aye.
What do you think it is then that stops people as they get older falling away from fitness? And I'm saying that, like, fortunately, I've got a good bunch of my friends who don't even go to the gym. We're in our late 20s, 30s, which is nuts.
You know, I think mindset, I think a lot of people, if I can talk about your kind of a generation and things like that, there's a certain laziness in there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's too hard. My generation wasn't brought up with PlayStations and Xboxes, and I would never have dreamt of sitting in front of the TV every night of the week with a headphone on and talk to my pals.
Class. You're like, that sounds insane.
That sounds mental. You know, and you know, we would do it.
Aye.
Chasing women. That was the primary goal when we were young. I don't know if that ever changes, but my wife says I can't do that anymore. But it's kind of the whole mindset thing is totally different. And people talk to me about their aches and pains, and I'll say to them, perhaps your aches and pains are caused by the lack of mobility. And, you know, gyms aren't just about shoving weights and having wee sexy women in the corner, because people are afraid of that. Right. Big guys, you know, your steroided guys standing here banging stuff out. That's not what the gyms are about. Everybody thinks that everybody's body dysmorphic. So you, me, everybody, and they start to look at themselves and think, oh, I can't go into a gym looking like this. I'll need to lose some weight before I can go to the gym. And it never works. Aye. Instead of thinking, well, see, when I go into that gym, nobody's actually looking at me. Because if you look in the gym, they're all looking at themselves. Everybody's standing in front of the mirror, doing their poses, doing their weights, whatever they're doing, but they're not looking at you. They're looking at them because their body's dysmorphic too. I don't care whether you're 18 stone and built like a brick shithouse, your body dysmorphic. Aye,
everyone's got insecurities, and that's sometimes the gym can enhance that. So I'd imagine even for yourself, like, would you say you've got any insecurities with how you look, and that's why it's driving you to the gym as well?
All the time.
Aye.
You know, I see a skinny guy with a pot belly.
Right.
That's what I see when I look in the mirror. And that's been my whole life. And I've seen the fat guy in the mirror because I was fat. And I've seen the really skinny guy as well. I think I'm doing it 10 stone at one time. I was really under a lot of tension and stress, and I wasn't training, all these things that were going on in my life at the time. And God, it was like, no,
bring up the triggers then when you sit.
Aye.
You see the weight go down and all that sort of stuff.
You see the weight go down, aye, that's a big one. And when I started back the gym, I think it was 37, it must have been 8, 9, 10 years, I don't know. And I walked in and it was machines. It was all Pulse Gym in Wishaw. I was there when that opened. Right. Wishaw Sports Centre. Me and my mate were the first ones in there. That's how long ago we did training. And goes out the chest machine and puts the pin down to the bottom, lies under it, thinking this is a doddle. It wouldn't move. Put it halfway down.
What is this?
Still couldn't move. I thought, somebody's fucking jammed this machine. It's not working.
5 kilo and you're like, what's moving?
That was a big wake up call. And I always remember it now because I never want to get back to that.
Right.
And
was it like lack of strength or just
lack of strength? Aye, totally, because I hadn't done anything for 10 years, and I'm thinking I could go and start off where I was going before. But that's where I never want to get to again.
Yeah.
My fear now is getting older, is getting injured, getting something that debilitates you very well.
And you lose your independence and quality of life.
Aye, and that's another drive for me
Yeah.
to go forward, because I love what I do.
Yeah. So you said before, and I guess this is a nice wee segment into it, like family means a lot to you, but
Aye.
I guess you've went through your fair share of hardship then with your brothers and your father.
Aye, that was it's probably, I went through a divorce at the same time as well.
All right.
So I had a horrible time. I sold Munchies, and I thought I'll take some time out. I'm going to go back into property development, because that's what I used to do, and nothing was kind of working out. And that was in the January, and my brother got a phone call in the May to say come to the hospital. So he'd been getting some tests done, and I went with him, and he was diagnosed with esophagus cancer.
Oh, right.
But don't worry about it. Everything's going to be cool. We're going to operate. You'll get chemo. You'll do this. We'll do that.
What age is he at this? Your brother, were they
brother,
older?
They were younger. My two brothers were both younger than me. So he's my middle brother. He was just coming up, and he'd have been 43, so he's 42.
Right.
So he went through. It started the start of September that year. He'd been through 3 weeks of chemo. The start of September that year, he had his operation. All sorts of complications went in, and he passed away on the operating table the second time or something they took him in. And it was a massive blow. When you think he's getting out
I was going to say, was no one expecting that? Was it like
the last week was horrible. He was in there 3 weeks, and the last week was horrible. When you watch somebody in intensive care, and what I say this, don't really mean it like that, but what the doctors and nurses are doing to him. At one point they turned him on his face, and he was bloated with steroids and things like that. And the poor soul, it still breaks my heart to think about it. And, they took him away to try and alleviate the problems with his lung, and he died on the table. And that was a massive blow. My youngest brother, Scott, he and Kenny were really close. It's funny, because I was close with Kenny. He was the middle one, and Scott was close with Kenny. But Scott and I,
because the ages were that.
It was 9 years between me and Scott, so we weren't that close. But during that period, we connected really well, because we were chalk and cheese. We connected really well, and we supported each other, and my mum and dad when Kenny died. And it's a bitter thing for a family to deal with, and watching your parents suffer like that was horrible. And
I don't think any parent ever expects
I would never, my worst enemy would never wish that one.
Yeah.
And then, so it took us a wee while. We started to grow together as a family, and then 2.5 years later, I got a phone call at the shop saying, Scott's no well, you need to come over. And Scott lived in Belsill at the time, so I'd rushed for the shop over to Belsill, and the ambulance was there, and he'd had a massive heart attack, and he was only 41. He would have been 41 the following week. I'd organised a party for him in my shop the following week, and that was like somebody just ripping the guts out of you. They were trying to save him, but I saw him, and I thought, he's away, but there was a guy there who was a friend of the family, and he was a nurse, and when they brought him down the stairs, they put him in the ambulance, and they turned the sirens on to go, and they said, just follow us. And the guy says to me, they've got the sirens on, that's a good sign. And I thought, there is hope. They got to the end of the street, they turned them off.
What did they?
Aye, and we kind of knew. My mum and dad were in the car with me, and my dad, we go over to Monklands, and we walked in, and the kind of reception to see where we're going, and one of my customers come through. He's a nurse or something in there, and he went, "Lindsay, how you doing?" I says, "I'm hopefully I'm good." I said, "My brother's here," and he went, "Who is it?" I said, "Scott Gilchrist, come with me," and he took us in this wee side room, and we knew then.
Aye.
But the devastation was, I can't describe it.
No. Is that, would you say, like, that was one of the hardest things you've been through in life?
Aye,
It's up there.
aye. It's when you go and see them, and then you have to leave, and then you go home, and it's that thing when you go home. I went back to my mum and dad's house, and I ended up calling a doctor for my mum. My mum had to be sedated. It was horrific, and my dad was just broke. When you see that in somebody, he was just broken, and it was then you have to start phoning people, because they're young, they've got friends, and I'd made these phone calls 2.5 years before.
Aye.
And it's strange when you phone somebody and you say, "Look, I've got something to tell you, Scott's passed." You're joking. And that, the amount of people that said that to me, "You're joking." And you think, why would I fucking joke?
You start losing, going insane.
It sets you, it does things to your head. But, we've had to get through it. I was getting divorced at the same time. And that became a horrible thing. And it's like people, when you're doing something, just want to keep kicking. But I think I'm strong enough, and mentally, physically, you need to be strong, and I think that gets you through life as well. So having that physical strength gave me the mental strength to get through that, and I'll never forget it, and I'll never go over it. It's actually Scott's anniversary tomorrow, and that's 15 years tomorrow since Scott died, and he could light up a room.
Aye.
And people say that about people, but genuinely, Scott was one of the guys that it didn't matter whether you're a rich man or a poor man, he was your pal. I learned a lot from Scott, even though I'm 9 years older. And I don't judge people at all. I learned that from Scott, and but that's been the hardest period of my life. And then my dad died. But that, he had dementia, he was suffering, he was struggling, my mum was struggling with it. And I was in Malta.
All places.
Aye, and we were actually in the flight back. And then when I came off the plane, I saw the missed calls and I knew. But my dad was a broken man from
his two
the
kids.
two boys. Kenny, I always say Kenny put a crack in him, and then Scott broke him, because he wasn't the same man after that. But my wee mammy's still there. She's still kicking. She's incredible. Absolutely incredible. What that woman's went through in her life, and she annoys the life out of me. You know what I mean? She wants something done. She wants it done now, and all mammies are the same. But I'm kind of the scary bit for me is now that my history is gone. It's just my mammy I've got, and so when I go and see my mammy, I see her most days. She does a lot of reminiscing and a lot of talking about people who have passed, and that can be hard.
Yeah.
But that's cathartic for her, so I need to let her do that. And then I have to go to the gym and batter things.
So that's kind of where you're relieving your stress.
Aye.
Well, thanks for sharing that, because I think I can't imagine, we take a lot of things for granted when we're younger, and I think a death is something that we can all agree on, that when that happens, like, I wish I'd done a wee bit more. I wish I'd done this with him. And
I remember times when my brothers would phone me up and say, Kenny in particular, you want to go out on Friday night? No. And the regret I have over that. But at the same time, I didn't want to do it. So I'm not going to beat myself up over things like that.
Nor you should. So I know a lot of people who've had someone close to them pass away, and just when you're training clients, it's like the biggest speed bump or it's the biggest sometimes deterrent from someone's journey that they're on, whether that's career-wise or whether it's the health and fitness goals. What do you think for you that allowed you to kind of push through with it? Because I can only imagine when you lose someone that close to you, you want to give up on everything. And I'm not saying that it's just, all right, it's just getting back to it. You probably have a lot of lower days and that sort of stuff. So where were you at in life at this? Did you have businesses, or were you?
I had Aroma. Aroma was open 2 years when Scott died.
Right.
And the focus it's very difficult because you run about and you've got so many things to do. But the other side of it is that I had people I'd employed, and they had a job, and I had to keep them employed. I couldn't take my eye off the ball, and that was a saving grace, because when you focus on business, you can totally focus, and you can have a shut everything out. It's like, I always think that it's like business is like a sanctuary sometimes, because you have to be in it 100%, and when you commit it, then you can go and deal with other stuff.
Yeah.
So I had some good people working for me at the time who helped me. Wee Jamie, who has been working for me for 16 years, is a wee stalwart. You know what I mean? She just helped, you know, and she just kept me on track. And she was kind of she's funny and witty and charming. You know what I mean? So
she's class.
Aye,
you always got a smile on her face,
don't you? And she helped me through that a lot more than she realises. Do you know what I mean? Maybe sometimes we don't always say to people how good they've been for you. Sometimes it's too late, you know. But she knows, and people like that. But you had to focus on business.
Did you ever want to chuck the towel in at this point? Was there any?
No, because see, at the end of the day, what would you do with your life? I'd only just started this journey with Aroma, and there was nothing else. You know, at that point in my life, there was nothing else. My brothers were gone. The business was my baby, for want of a better word. Yeah. And that I could focus on that. Giving up was no really an option. And I don't mean that in a big macho way or anything like that. But
just never crossed your mind.
For my sanity. No, it never crossed my mind. Just keep going.
So I want to circle back. So as I say, I thought you had Aroma since day one. So you were working in the space of, like, was it home improvements, or was it like property, something to do with property?
I worked for housing companies. I was a sales director for Miller Homes, Wilcon Homes first, then Miller, Wilcon Homes, then SL Homes, then Miller Homes.
Cool.
So I worked for a guy called, my favourite person ever was a guy called Brian Dempsey,
right?
Who owned SL Homes, and I learned so much from Brian.
Yeah, mentor. Was he the first mentor in your life, or the guy?
Aye. He was the guy that brought Fergus McCann to Parkhead. Right. So he was a big Celtic man, and he thought I was a Rangers man. But the two of us were from Belsill. I was brought up in a Rangers household, but I don't really care about football.
Yeah.
But Brian was such an enigmatic character that I watched his style. I'd seen people manage, and I'd seen people being managing directors and things like that, but Brian's style.
Do you think this was the first time actually seeing a proper leader?
Yeah, a gentleman. You know, somebody who you could talk to, and somebody who would talk to you, no at you, and the way he dealt with people. And if he met you 2 years ago, he'd remember your name the next time he saw you. Absolute gentleman. And what happened to him at Parkhead was ridiculous, because he brought Fergus in and then Fergus bumped him. But I'm sure Brian's done well. Do you know what I mean?
He's doing all right.
He's doing all right.
So you're working under him for like
3 years.
3
years, and you know, we had so many conversations. He was a Wilshaw boy. I was a Wilshaw boy. He liked
So
that.
he clicked.
He was, I think Brian must be he's no 10, maybe 12 years older than me. No, he done well. He was millionaire by the time he was 41 or something like that. I'm way behind. Way behind. But he was just an enigmatic character, and he just had a nice style about him. And he could ignite you. He'd find something in you and ignite it and make you feel good. And that's what I want to be. I want to be somebody who can take somebody and say, come on, there's something in there. And I'm trying it all the time.
Because you get to see the high
me.
school kids and then everyone coming through from in between.
We've at Aroma now, we've got the SVQ involved, so we're training people to be chefs. So they come and work for us. They're not just, being a server, being this or being that. We've got an SVQ, we've got people on supervisor SVQs, chef FVQs.
I try to give them skills.
But something they can move on in life with. What's the point of coming to work for me for 5-10 years and then leave and say, I worked at Aroma? What's your qualifications?
I see what I come with a better experience from. And I like that. So being in that world, what made you go and start your own tiling business then?
That was a fluke. That was a fluke. Because I'd got to the stage. I went to Miller Homes and I hated them.
Right.
They were such a dictatorial business, dictatorship,
rules and regulations, every red tape.
Me, because I was fucking good at what I'd done. I sorted out their whole East Coast. They had women knitting who were supposed to be selling hooses. I would go and they'd be sitting knitting.
All right.
So, I went through it like a scythe, and then they put me in charge of the West Coast as well. So I sorted that out. And they had, it was a shambles.
Endless amount of stories there.
It really was ridiculous. You get memos for the guys who were 2 doors down. Instead of coming and chapping the door. I was the guy that chapped the door and said, right, what the fuck's going on here? Can we get this sorted? But I hated Miller Homes. I was there for 3 years too. But
was that the last kind of
that was the last company I worked for. And I was talking to a guy, I got friendly with some suppliers and things like that. And I was talking to a guy and he was helping somebody set up a tiling business. And I says, what's involved in that? Because I need money. Skint. You work all the time, still skint. And he says, if they get a shop, he says, we supply all the tiles, blah, blah, blah. We do the displays and all that. I said, what does that cost? He said, no, we put that in. I said, what about stock and stuff? Well, you don't need to stock anything because if you take an order for 16 metres of tiles, you phone us up, we deliver it out to you. So I started to look at what can I profit, 30%, 40%, things like that. And there's a wee shop in Craigneuk, and it was $3,000 a year rent. And I knew the guy that was renting it. So I put £1,000 in. And these guys come in, fitted it all out.
Class.
Big displays. And I thought, well, I've never set a tile before. How do I go about this? And just open my doors. And, it's that way where I don't sell anything. I make pals. You come in and see me, I'll do you a deal. I'll work with you, I'll come out and measure it. I'd never even measured a wall before. I'm fucking...
You work out how to use this measuring tape?
I use this measuring tape. But the first year that I did that, there was 2 companies, Cosmo Ceramics and Scott Ceramics in Hillington, and I was their top salesman of the year, the first year I opened. It turned over something like 180 grand.
Oh, really?
Which was for a standing start. Because I started
doing,
I would tile that wall for you, or I would do. Then I started doing the full kitchen.
That's what I mean. You got in there with your probably the character of who you are. Like they always say,
we'll do everything.
You need to like someone before you actually buy something from them. That's massive.
You've got. I don't think it's even 30 seconds. I think it's something like 10 seconds. You know somebody.
First impressions matter, don't they?
But I knew also that all the house builders around the area, they all used a couple of companies, Moores and Symphony, for their kitchens, and they'll use Cosmo for their tiles. So you buy a brand new house, you've got so many wall units, but you want more. So I would run all the sales offices because I knew all the reps, give them a number, tell them to phone me, I'll get the bits for them. So we would then add to their kitchen or add to the tiles. So you could get and the house builders liked that because I knew because they don't like add-ons. So if they can say, here's a number, and once you move in, this guy will do it all for you, it was a win-win.
Aye, because they've done their part.
They've done their bit. They've handed the house over, and then we would go in and just add to the tiling, because maybe half wall of tiles, they wanted a full wall. It was wee jobs.
Wee bits and bobs.
But all these wee jobs
they add up.
added up. You know what I mean? But so I did that for 3 years. I had a couple of contracts as well, but it wasn't really for me.
What was it that you didn't feel was for you?
6 o'clock in the morning, I was
at
at a building site
shifts.
somewhere.
Aye.
You know what I mean? You're having to take tilers about. And I remember the tiling cement, it came in big tubs ready made, and it was frozen solid. And
There must be another business out there.
And there was a wee guy selling a shop 2 doors down for me. And that was my first munchies.
Right.
And when I was when I was working in ABs, that's where I did my trade. We all used to go up to this wee shop in Craighew and get our rolls and sausage or whatever it was. Everyone tasted onion. Didn't matter where you bought a cake off him, it tasted onion. Wee Jim Moffat, and he'd been trying to retire, and he couldn't get MD to take it on, and I could understand why. It was a bit run down.
Right.
So I was chatting to him one day, and I says, "Look, why don't I buy it off you?" It was 20 grand. That was including the building. And he gave me 4 years to pay it.
What did he?
Aye. Gave him a couple of £1,000, and then I think I paid it off over 2 years later. I gave him all his money. But I had to take this place, rip it to a shell. But I had the tiling business.
I see.
So I'd everyone there, tailors there, everyone refitted
So
it.
this is how the kind of cafe era started.
That's when my food thing started. And I had the great pleasure of, there was a net curtain in this wee place.
Right.
And it was there when I was 16, and it was still there when I was 36, 37. I got to take that down. It came down one big piece, and it was a bit sticky.
Aye.
And
all the oil and all that.
Oh my God, it was horrible.
That's where the onion smell was coming from.
That's where it all came from. But I got the pleasure of taking that down, and I'm quite proud of that fact, actually, because and we turned this pig's ear into a salt purse, and it just went boom. And
did you know much about like the cafe business as a whole, or did you have any?
No, I knew what I liked.
Right, so that was what you based it off of.
I think I've always based things on what would I want. You know what I mean? It's like you go into a place and it smells of this or it does that, and that's not what I want. I always know what I don't want, but trying to find out what you want. So I've always just based it. And I remember I had my ex-wife and my sister-in-law. They were working in this wee cafe. It wasn't a cafe, just a takeaway. And I said, we need to start doing baguettes. Oh, no, they'll no sell. I said, I'm telling you, guys come in the morning, rolling sausage, you've got a chill unit there with baguettes in it.
They'll buy the lunch.
They'll buy their lunch as well. No.
Where did that idea come from? Because when you say that just seems so obvious to do, but I can only imagine back.
Because I used to travel.
Right,
I used to be out on the road. So
I need to get something.
I need to get some food. And so you'd say, just give me that now. So they ended up selling, we were doing something like 20 dozen rolls a day and then 60 baguettes a day. So the idea worked, and I proved them right. And that didn't put me in very good light with them.
Is this how the divorce ended up happening?
It started there. It started a long time before it did.
Yeah, you can't be right in those situations, mate.
So that I really loved that. I loved that business, and the tiling business was starting to, it wasn't faltering, it was me losing interest in it. But we'd tile it all. There was one opened in Motherwell, and there was one opened in another one in Craighew, the old Boyles Ironmongers. They tile all. I can't remember what they're called, but they were selling tiles and were putting 20 pence a tile. People didn't actually know that it still has a meter worth of tiles, and my tiles were the same price, but it did hit me.
Aye, so the marketing, it's just it's crazy how marketing
worked. And I thought, I've done my 3 years of that. I'm not that interested. So I sold the contracts and just shut the business down. And I could probably have sold the business at the time, but
weren't interested.
I wasn't, because I wanted something in the main street. So I got a shop on Wishaw Main Street across from Wilbers, the second Munchies, and I opened that up. And then the Craighew one, the hospital had opened. So while the workers were travelling up and down, we Munchies and Craighead was doing fantastic.
Right.
But once the construction was complete, there was less passing traffic. And a guy I knew says to me, I want to buy that off you. I went, take it. Because that let me buy the shop next door.
Right.
In Wishaw.
Right.
So I had Munchies and then I bought the shop next door and then I knocked a wall through.
Oh, so you seen to like expand it in that
I wanted to expand into the cafe market.
So was this all just takeaways at this point then?
Everyone was takeaway.
Out of curiosity, like during this time, like what's like the margins in like takeaway businesses? Because I think I see a lot of people try to start them in this day and age, and we'll come on to like what that looks like now to what it maybe have looked like back then. But was that quite a lucrative business then compared to like?
It's all about bulk,
right?
You know, the profit margins aren't great. It's about how much you can sell. It's a bit like everything else. The more mass you can do, so because it's competitive, particularly.
I always thought that's why, especially today.
A pound for a rolling sausage. You know what I mean? It was like I think it was 90 pence or something. I can't remember. It was so cheap, but my emphasis has always been on buying quality. So you pay a bit more for the sausage, you pay a bit more for the rolls, you pay a bit more for everything. So that you don't always get that increase in your profit margin. Nowadays is different. Nowadays people want quality and will come just for quality and consistency. But in those days it was more, let's get as many as we can. But if you give them a good rolling sausage, they'll come back. Sounds daft.
Aye.
Good rolling sausage. I mean,
just takes one first impression, isn't it?
Do you know what I mean? But it was but you know, it's kind of it's hard to think back to that time now.
It probably all just merges into like.
Aye, because when I opened the one in Wishaw and then I took the shop on next door, I thought this has got to be a doddle, knock a hole through the wall. I remember that so we're shutting Saturday because we're putting this hole in.
Right.
And I'm digressing again, aren't I? So we started with a big long drill thing.
Aye. No warrants or anything, just going for it.
Oh, these fucking warrants. No, fuck this. We're just going on with it. So we starts going through. Now, it was that length, right? Didn't come out the other end.
How thick's this wall?
Turned out it was 4 feet thick.
Oh, geez, so.
I had to get an engineer in. I had to get a building one.
Structural.
Fucking 8, what was it? 8 girders.
Oh, was it?
Steps. It turned into, what I thought was
could have bought a bigger place,
job with a quick wooden lintel to this fucking monster. I couldn't believe it. But we did it.
I got there in the end.
We got there in the end, and we opened that up, and it went like a fair. It really did. The Munchies was really popular, but at that time I was going through difficulties in my personal life. So the idea was I think we did that for about 8 years, and the difficulties in the personal life, I thought, well, sell this because it was profitable, and you could achieve a good amount of money for it, and I owned the buildings as well.
Did you sell the buildings as well? Did you sell the
buildings? Sold it outright, and that was the idea. Was that then, save the marriage. That was basically what it was. Yeah, because there was too much going on.
So are you working with your ex-wife at this time? Yeah. I'm just about to do that in my business. What we're doing, but they say the 2 hardest partnerships in life is a marriage and then a business relationship as well. So combining 2 into one.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. But I think the problem is that you need to have parameters. Boundaries.
Boundaries, yeah.
And if it's when they start overstepping those boundaries, and I'm saying I don't mean that in the way that it sounds, but you both need to have boundaries and say, this is my area, that's your area. And that's the thing I find difficult, and that's why I can't have partners, because it's like, it's my way, and that's the only way I know. Yeah. And I will listen to people's opinions, but at the same time, they're like assholes, they've all got one. So I need to be the one that drives this forward. Whether it be even just the colour of a wall. You know what I mean?
I think that probably comes from the 30 plus years or your whole life of these decisions that you've kind of went on your own intuition. Aye. And it's worked out for you. So you've got your experience built up there, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that that's the right way to do it, but you know that works for, works for you.
Don't get me wrong, there's been loads of things I've done wrong. I have trusted people in the past and been shafted. You know what I mean? I've helped people out in the past and been stuck. Do you know what I mean? But that doesn't stop me for trusting people, and that doesn't stop me for trying to help people. But the instinct, Brian Dempsey, he said to me, always trust your gut. He says, Lindsay, you've got a good gut instinct. Trust it. Because I was wavering at one point, and Brian, it was great. He'd know what was going on in you. And he'd phone me up, come on down and see me. And you go down and sit 10, 15 minutes. And I always remember that conversation at the end. He says, Lindsay, trust your gut. Stop listening to these. And never believe your own propaganda. You can tell people how well you're doing as much as you want, but don't you fucking believe it.
Aye.
You know what I mean? And that's what kind of keeps pushing you on.
You keep driven.
People say to me, oh, you're successful. I'm not successful.
It's like you never win. It's like
never win.
A constant game.
Never win. Every day, you get up in the morning and you think to yourself, what's the day going to be like? Because my kind of business is I open my doors and I wait for people to come in. We can do the social marketing, we can do that, but I'm still relying on people come through the door, and that welcome that they get, that the way they're treated, that's so important. And reviews, you look at reviews, and I can be a cheeky bastard with people with reviews, because I think you're totally unwarranted if you've said something about one of my members of staff, or you've not been happy with some. When you've away home done your keyboard warrior thing instead of talking to us.
And then came in the next day and ordered it again. So I thought we were shite.
Exactly.
You're back in.
And I mean, I've had don't get me wrong, that's not something that happens on a regular basis, but you take it personally.
No, of course, it's your baby. You said it earlier on.
That's my life and my life's work and hopefully my legacy. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm not going to be here forever. One of the things that I've kind of I've learned to understand is our own mortality. And, you know, every day is a blessing. I don't know who for, because I don't believe in any of that. But I think that
there's something.
There's something. And, you know, that this drive that we all have inside, somebody's quash it down, you know, and don't want to progress. But some other people let outside influences affect them too much. Instead of trusting themselves.
Social media, it's like you see the highlights of everyone's life.
And these beautiful women and beautiful guys with their
cars,
their Lamborghinis.
The riches and all that, and it's we've seen one little small chapter of somebody's life. That's why podcasts are great, because you can get to dive into the depths of it all. So you sold the business then to try and go into, I'm assuming, just work on your marriage and get kind of a wee bit more life balance from the sounds of things, because running a business is 24/7, especially at the start. And then it sounds like the start of your journey, you've had 2-3 very successful years in this.
We done well.
8, sorry.
Well, 8 there. But that was when my brother got diagnosed, and that kind of just forever up in the air. And, you know, I went for counselling after my brother died, but it was about a year later, because I couldn't get out of the bit, because I don't want to keep dwelling on this, but
no, it's all right.
One of the things that I had to do was I had to take everybody else's mourning.
You said
them, and didn't have it, and I couldn't get time for myself. And, you know, there was some people, their mourning was much greater than mine, and I mean that, and I kind of almost sarcastically, because my loss was greater, but I had to listen to this shit.
Was this like friends and
I don't have a lot of friends. You know what?
I mean, they're friends like because they're going to call you, aren't they?
And that didn't give me time.
Did that build up then over the year? Yeah. Was that a breaking point or
a snapping point? You know, and it was somebody said to me about it. I can't remember who it was, but there's a place called The Haven, and it was in Blantyre, and I met this wee woman, Senga, and she just listened. Nobody had ever listened to me before, because I couldn't talk to my mum and dad, because they were grieving, and when I went in, they grieved on me. Scott, my youngest brother, he was grieving, you know, he was broke as well. Do you know what I mean? So I was having to soak all this in. So when I got to see her, by the time I got to see her, I would recommend it to anybody, because the bereavement side of it can hit you anytime.
Oh, no.
It could be 2 years later, 3 years later.
Aye, you need to process it, don't you?
Aye. And she was really good. but I was doing marriage guidance counselling at the same time. So I was going and seeing her one day, and then 2 days later I was going as marriage guidance counsellor. And I was all the bastards of the day, so I ended up not saying nothing in there. And poor Senga got it all.
Was getting it.
So my 6 weeks with Senga ended up like 3 months.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I thought, this is enough. But it kind of, my brother's death made me aware of my mortality, as I said earlier, but also talking to Senga.
Being able to strengthen your mental resilience.
It made me realise what I was unhappy with as well. Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't just mourning. I was mourning a life, but I was mourning my life too, because I'd got to this stage in life where nothing was for me.
Yeah.
Everything was for everybody else. I'm the yes man. I'm still a bit like that. I still say yes too often.
I don't think you can truly change that as a person.
See, the minute you say no, they go,
Aye.
What's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong. I just don't want to fucking do it. But that was a hard time.
So it's interesting you mentioned it, so don't take this the wrong way, but any of the older generation, should I say, or older than me, right? When it comes to mental health and talking about your feelings and all this sort of stuff, usually you hear, that's all the shit, just man up and kind of get on with it. And that's really nice to actually hear a story from yourself of like personally how that affect mental health of where it's at now. Obviously it's a rabbit hole of like a conversation to go down, but were you like aware of that? Was this the first time that actually being aware of like your mental health, or was it like understanding like, well man, stress is getting to me here, something doesn't feel right?
I've had various moments in my life where stress has been quite overwhelming, and I've always been able to deal with it. I did a course years ago on positive affirmations and positive.
Oh yeah.
You know, that was a thing in the 80s, and we did a couple.
It's coming full circle. It's like it's almost just
you wake up in the morning saying, "Boy, I feel good today," when you really feel like a bag of shit. You can convince yourself of so much, but no everything.
Aye.
But no, I think that you do become, the older you get, you do become aware. But I saw a lot of pain in people on that in the last 15 years, and I couldn't cope with it all. And I had to try and find a way to cope with this and realise that this is having an effect on me. So finding help, and it's not the first time. Well, that's the first time I went for counselling, but I started counselling again about, I don't know, 7 years ago. Okay. I met somebody, and I think that the years of holding everything in got to me. The divorce got to me. Just everything.
Aye.
You know, there was this massive build-up. I always think that when you talk about waves coming over you, you're crashing, and that way you can't breathe. Mm. And you try and extract yourself out of that and breathe. Just learn the basics, you know. Aye. And that could work for me a lot. I could just go and just take that 5 minutes and get the breath. But I was discovering that my heart was still racing. And I went to the doctors, and the doctor said, there's a prescription.
Straight away? Aye,
and I'm looking at this prescription. I had no idea what it was. And it was some kind of antidepressant. I've been in the bin. I thought I'll go and see. And I had a good friend who worked with the Samaritans, and he, there was a suicide awareness group he worked with, and he recommended a girl to me. And I went to see her. She's from Coatbridge. And she was amazing.
Aye.
And she made me kind of reassess things. And she had the chalkboard, do you know what I mean? And what makes you happy? And nobody'd ever asked me that. Mm. What makes you angry? What makes you sad? Do you know what I mean? Nobody's ever asked me. People don't, because they don't like the answer. Mm. That's another thing you have to be very careful of. If a person asks you a question, you know they're not going to like the answer, so you don't tell them. And so this list was what makes me happy. Mm-hmm. And you know what came the top of that? The gym.
Was it?
Aye.
First thing that came at mind.
I wasn't fucking going.
And you seen it on paper for the first time, or on the chalkboard.
Why you not doing it?
Yeah.
And I was in that mood, in that low ebb, that I couldn't be bothered going. I didn't have a gym in my back garden at the time. Do you know what I mean? So I had to make that effort to go to the gym, and I wasn't happy in gyms.
Just going for
didn't matter where I went, I wasn't fucking happy. So gym, holidays, you know, because we were at that stage where life was taking over, and we'd bought this place up in Dunbar, and I hated Dunbar, and I wanted to go to Spain. I didn't want to go to Dunbar. I wanted to go to Spain. Every time up there, it pissed the rain, you know. And just life it was battered me, and she helped me reassess things. And I don't know if I would call it counselling or more kind of a life affirmation, life realignment. Because when we're in this cycle, the treadmill of life, you don't get time to think. So it's that step off, isn't it? Mm. But I always used to say that I wish
you going in the right direction.
I want to jump off for a wee while. Mm-hmm. But when my brothers died, you learn that world still keeps moving, and you're kind of stuck and almost in slow motion, trying to get things done, and then trying to get back on it is hard.
Yeah, can imagine it being hard. See when you sold the Munchies part, then is this the first time was this like seen as an early retirement type of thing, or what were you doing, like work wise or anything?
No, certainly no retirement. I was actually quite cocky,
right?
Because I thought to myself, I started this business with 10 grand, and I sold it for a lot of money. Mm-hmm. If I can do that with 10 grand, what can I do with that? Mm-hmm. I fucking fell flat in my face.
What was some of the things you started getting involved in?
Land buying.
Right.
I bought a couple of bits of land, and then there was all sorts of problems with them, and I trusted a couple of people, and you know, let's go into partnership with this and that, and it was all my money, and then it fell flat in its face. And
just, are you buying through like the crash and everything at this point as well?
Well, what I didn't understand was I was kind of a naive, because I'd left the housing market 10 years before, and then trying to get back into it. I'm trying to make offers on flats. They're selling for 40 grand. If I offer 45 for that, I'll spend 10 on it. I'll sell it for 75 or whatever. But they were selling for like double the price.
Like, what's going on?
What the fuck's going on? Buy to let.
Aye.
And I wasn't interested in buy to let. I don't want to have that hold over somebody. Mm. I just want to give me a building, let me do it up, and I'll sell it to you. Mm. That's all I wanted to do. And it just kept falling flat in its face. And I'd been offered the shop in Wishaw. And I went, no, I don't want to go back into that.
Where Aroma is now?
Aye, right. I was offered that. And I said, no, I'm not really that interested. But then as time progressed, and what happened with my brother, because he died in the September, so this was the January, and I thought, you know what, I need to do something. That was a year where I'd basically just been kind of fucked about, pity,
grieving,
a bit of pity, self-pity. So that came up, and I thought, bugger it, let's just go for this. And I had a vision in my head what I wanted. A coffee house. No a cafe, but a coffee, a proper West End coffee house. That's what I had in my head.
So had you experienced this at this point? Have you, and you quite liked the
I loved it. You know, I loved it. I love going to West End on a Sunday and having a wee wander in the cafes, getting a wee coffee here, wee bite to eat there. The atmosphere, the vibe of it, I really liked that, and I'd spent a lot of time up in Edinburgh, and I'd done it up there as well, and that's the vibe that I wanted. I couldn't find that anywhere else. Now there's a few places trying to...
I was going to say, this is what, how many years ago?
17 years.
17 years ago, so the foresight that you've got at this point, like, it's pretty
But it's
incredible.
back to that thing where do what you... create something that you would want. You know what I mean? So I wanted a place that I could go to and feel comfortable sitting in, and that's what I feel comfortable in. I didn't want the wee greasy spoon with the bacon and egg and all that kind of... I wanted something a wee bit more classy than that, but something with a good vibe to it. People make the vibe. That's what you learn.
Yeah.
You get the right members of staff, the right team around you. They create that vibe. We can have the best food in the world, but horrible people serving, and folk will not come back.
It just changes the whole thing.
It changes the whole dynamic of it. So that was and it's evolved for then as well, because I thought, right, we'll put chills in, we'll do paninis, toasties, and they can pick them up and we'll put them through there. But from my Munchies times, I had a lot of customers coming in. Can you no do me this? Can you no do me that? Well, we've got a kitchen here, we could do that. So you'd end up basically starting cooking again. And I had a young fella working for me, Gary, who had worked for me at Munchies, and he knew how to do all the stuff that I done. I trained him when he was 16, and he was great. You know, I mean, let's just do it. Let's just do it. So then you're buying another bit of equipment, then another bit of equipment, and before you know it, there's a full-blown kitchen.
Yeah.
And we don't need this.
Might as well do hot food.
Aye, just do hot food. Sell the chills, get some more tables and chairs in, and I had couches everywhere as well. But what I found was that, and this sounds terrible, but people were sitting too long.
Right.
So I wasn't going to turn over the tables.
This is the weird thing: is the balancing act of business. Like, there's to be ways of maximising your potential in it, like keeping everybody happy.
Looking at it, and there was a crowd of older people used to come in, and say a Saturday. And they'd been there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they wouldn't leave till 12:30.
Now, shift.
And this would be maybe 10 there, 6 here. So maybe it's 16 seats taken up, right? And they'd buy a coffee, and they'd nurse that coffee.
Aye.
But they'd tell me how well they were helping my business. And it started to get to me. Do you know what I mean? Because I think, I'm only keeping these couches for fucking use. And then one Friday night, I ripped them all out and put tables and chairs in. Right. And they all walked in the Saturday morning and went, and gave me a hard time. I went, this is my business. It's no yours. Right. You're £2, no paying her wages. and I was a bit cheeky, but you have to understand where sometimes older people, and I'm one of them now, right? We are a bit too forceful in our opinion when we're not asked for it. So, and the team was getting scunnered because they'd be very passive markable about people. Certain things. You put the beef on, they'd say things that you and I would never dream of saying to somebody. You look at the state of the team, just shit. So we did it, and then the following week they went to Costa, and I was a happy bunny. My shop's been full ever since. And it's been, that was the kind of a turning point for me, because I took all these couches out and put tables and chairs in, because I actually sat one day and tried to eat. And I thought, this is so uncomfortable.
It's awkward.
And we still had the kind of a low seating up the stairs, but I redid that during the pandemic and then put tables and chairs in. So I mean, we've got what, 30 tables. I didn't think how many people I serve on a day. We try not to count it.
Just the receipts on the tills.
I knew it's all cashless as well, so it's kind of that's been a different vibe to the whole since the pandemic.
Yeah,
everyone's went cashless, and I'm not sure that's a good thing.
No,
I don't think it's a good thing. I think there's a lot of people are going to your window cleaners, your wee cash in hand jobs, all these things, all these guys who are making a few bob on the side are getting eased out now, and I think that's got to create another divide.
Yeah,
but that's a different story.
I know. See how that evolves. So when you're going through your years building Aroma and working on your personal life and all this sort of stuff, when did it opening up a second location? Everyone always thinks is the dream, but it becomes one of the biggest challenges, because how do you duplicate staff, the field, the environment? When did that come for you?
The second Aroma, Lanarkshire, wasn't mine.
Right, okay.
That was my wife's.
Right.
I got remarried a few years ago, 10 years ago now. And when I met Heather, she wanted to do my business. She wanted a copy of my business. So I let her look. She decided.
All right, cool.
Lanarkshire. So we kept the two businesses separate. Now, financially, it's a sensible thing to do.
Right.
Because the tax man, the VAT man, the councils, all of these people, you bang the two together and you're humped.
Aye.
So I said to her, we keep these separate.
I've got 3 in this one place: the studio, the coaching, and then the hires.
All separate.
Aye.
That's
it's crazy that you have to kind of go down that, but it makes sense to do as well.
Aye. Well, look at even just the what do you call it, the council tax relief. No,
I know what you're talking. Your business council tax.
Business council tax. You've two businesses, the two of them lumped together. So you suddenly go for having not having to pay in at all to having to pay for two.
Aye,
it's mental.
Crazy.
The government doesn't encourage small businesses. I'm not even going to start on that.
I was going to go into this week because I think you said you're a yes man and you like to help people out, and I know you've been involved with really trying to give a lot back to the community, and a lot back into Wishaw or into even like in around. I know you know Ants and all that with Aroma Coffee and all that. What's your bugbears with like how small businesses need to operate these days? Or what's the biggest challenges you see with that?
Biggest challenge is the cashless society.
Right.
That's one of the biggest challenges now. And let's be honest, young ones think it's a great idea, but you have no concept of 10 years' time. I think the government's planning to try and get us totally cashless by 2030. Don't think it'll happen, but they're going to try and push it. We're getting pushed in a rabbit hole now. I'm a big one for all these conspiracy theories.
I'll need to introduce you to a guy who comes on the podcast. He's writing this, so he's involved in like property and a couple other things. But so I'll hear him make this argument and that sort of thing. So I can see it, I get it, but I'm trying to think of things like 10 years down the line. Cash in hand is a lot less in the personal training, but I think it still kind of happens in this day and age. So thinking out loud, how does it become more of a problem? Do you think it affects your business, or does it just allow? It
allows
more to get taxed and taken away, basically.
That's exactly. What's Big Brother's watching?
Aye.
And Big Brother's watching hard.
So they've got the data.
They've got all the data. I mean, even now they're wanting Marketplace and
Gillian uses it.
They're wanting the data for that. Vinted, whatever it is. I just think that they're kind of a watching us. The pandemic or plandemic, depends how you look at it, has started this push. We've all had a wee ring put through our nose and we're all getting pulled by it. But I that's something that I'm not comfortable talking about, because I think that everybody's got an opinion on that.
You don't know where it's going to end up.
You don't know where it's going to end up. I think we've got a government now that has done none but lie and cheat to us, and no tried to help anybody.
Yeah.
The pandemic was not out there to help small businesses. It was out there to destroy small businesses. Because all your big businesses were still open.
Aye, they could. So did you stay open through this?
We did deliveries and takeaways.
Right. So did you do that at the time, or did you have to pivot?
I had to pivot.
Right.
I actually thought I'd lost my business.
I was going to say, I can only imagine how challenging that is, because you're lifeblood and you're building momentum every year.
Every year's getting better and better.
And then it hits. What does that look like from a staffing perspective, and then all that sort of stuff?
Well,
was that?
You know, you're looking at people who have given their heart and soul to you as well. And we were paying, I couldn't afford to pay any more than 80%, which the government was going to give us back. But what no everybody understands is that although I was paying that 80% wages to everybody who wasn't working, I could be 3 months before I get that back.
Yeah.
So every 3 months I'd get a lump sum. My cash flow. So without opening and doing the takeaways and deliveries, I couldn't have afforded to pay the wages. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying poor me, but that was the reality of it, that I had to wait for this money coming in to pay the wages, but it was 3 months down the line, so I had to make money to pay the wages. And that was a really difficult one. And I thought we'd lost the business on the day the shutdown, because there was such a panic put into people.
Yeah.
And I remember I stopped at Ravenscraig on the way home and went up the hill, and I'm standing on the hill wondering what the fuck I'm going to do. And my mammy phoned me. "How are you, son?" Out the blue. Now, that woman is a tower of strength. Do you know what I mean? She's a pain in my arse, but she's my tower of strength. But for her to phone me at that particular point, when I'm standing at the top of this hill with the wind fucking blowing, wondering what the hell's going on in the world, my mammy phoned me and she says, "You'll be all right." And I went, "Mum, you know what? I will." And I went home and kind of a worried all night, never really slept. And I thought, I'll go back. I went up to the shop next morning. I don't know why, because I think it's what I do.
Yeah.
And I've noticed takeaways open. And I thought we were all shut down. So then nobody tells you.
Yeah, no, it's like,
you know,
just going for it.
They were just going. I thought, fuck it. So I just put a wee thing on my group chat. MD want to come back in. I'm no forcing MD to come back to work. If MD wants to come back to work, I'm going to open Monday. And we'll do 4 days a week. We did we tried a few different things. And the young ones all wanted to come back because they were all stuck in the house. So we worked and we got through it. And the rules and regulations during that time with the plastic screens and all that. I remember we'd opened up there was 2 lockdowns, wasn't there? 2 big lockdowns.
Aye. I just came back to me when you said plastic screens because you had to keep the social distance rules when the restaurants were allowed to open back up. You
could take your mask off once you sat down, but you had to keep it on to walk in. And I had an argument with Environmental Health one day about these plastic screens, and they went, "Oh, you can put a plant up." I went, "A plant is a COVID stopper?" Yeah. So I got that ivy off Amazon,
right?
No, the hanging stuff,
aye.
And I stapled it to the ceiling, a wee line like that, and a wee line there.
You're like, this looks quite aesthetic.
That was quite aesthetic. That was a COVID barrier,
right?
And you're fucking joking.
Saying, isn't it?
How is that a COVID barrier?
Did you get any pushback from customers?
No,
because anyone I ever speak to, it seems like we're more or less on the same page. It's like, don't really want to stick to this, but like we'll get through it. But I always wondered, like, for
you still get the odd person coming with a mask on.
I know that still happens.
You still see them walking about the streets, but
just fair.
That it depends on their health circumstances.
Of course,
That's why they're doing it. But I remember one of the Sundays, I had two main instances with environmental health during the COVID thing, and one was they turned up one Sunday and they were out pissing the rain. I was out doing deliveries, but we were open, and we'd all the tables all separated and all that, and 2 of them came to the door, and I was just going in, and I went, so I just stopped them at the door. I says, everyone all right? Aye. I think you've got your tables too close together. And I looked in, I went, you know what, today, go down to the range, go down to the B&M. I says, have a look at that car park, because I just passed it, the place was jumping. Yeah. I says, you get in there and then come back and tell me I've my folk sitting too close together. You can fuck right off.
Is this happening just because you're a restaurant, or does people phoning up, do you think?
It was a restaurant. The second time it happened to me was see the day we could open back up again. It was the 11th of December, I think it was, right? They shut us back down the 24th again.
I remember that.
But the 11th was the Friday. So, but apparently restaurants weren't allowed to open till 6 o'clock.
Oh yeah, I remember that because it was the whole nightclub stuff and aye.
So I opened that day.
Right.
So at 2 o'clock the day, I got a phone call from Environmental Health saying you're open. I says, yes. I says, because the government says we can open the 11th. No, 6 o'clock tonight. I says, I don't open at 6. I said, so you tell me the government lied to me? I was just
playing it. You're playing
I was just playing it. And I'm going, well, you'll have to get everybody at your restaurant now. Okay. Put the phone down. One of the lassies told me, she says, what are we doing? I says, just keep going.
Yeah.
What the fuck difference does that one day make? They wanted me, so basically I had to open and shut within a minute.
But then again, and I don't mean this as like to come off like rude or anything, but the amount of restaurants and small cafes and all this sort of thing, they must have been opened on that day. Are they just going round, do you think, and phoning?
I think what's happened is one of my competitors has thought,
they didn't open, they didn't make the decision to open.
They didn't make the decision to open, so they'll moan about me doing it. Yeah. That's just small petty-minded. I don't care what anybody else does. They mind their business.
I focus on yours.
And I'll do mine. And, I, over the years, everybody's going to shut me down because we're going to open this super duper place and we're going to steal a room. I really don't.
It's one of the questions I had for you. So what's the cafes and coffee shops, certainly in today's age, it seems to be, particularly coffee spots and all that, seems to be a more popular business. What's that like in terms of the competitiveness of that? Have you been involved in much where people try to throw shade your way and all that sort of stuff?
I think you probably get a bit
mind games.
I don't really get involved in anything like that. I think I see a lot of people on social media posting stuff now that looks like mine. So, and I see faces opening places that have spent a bit of time in my shop, either between Wishaw or Lanarkshire, and it's like copycats. And we've obviously got some staff that have left and went to other businesses as well. Yeah. So they'll try and do what we do. But I think we've got a certain flair. I think we've got a certain style, a work ethic. quality and consistency. People forget they two things very quickly. They can open up and look great at the start. If you don't keep your place clean, you don't keep the consistency going with every aspect of that business. I'm always striving to move forward. My favourite saying is that I'm not looking in the rearview mirror, I'm looking in the windscreen. If I look in the rearview mirror, I'm going to break my heart.
Aye.
So the windscreen's where I need to be. And I just keep pushing towards that. So I'm really not interested in what other people are doing. If I'm going to try and emulate something, it'll be somebody in London or Manchester or Birmingham that's doing...
And he's up, the new flavour.
The new flavour or the new... Just the way things look, the aesthetics of some... I'm eclectic. You know, my shop looks like what my house would look like if I didn't have a wife.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I'll say to Heather, I quite fancy doing, I was going to put a bike in the wall. Do you know what I mean? Oh, no, you're not putting a bike in the living room wall. I said, well, I'm putting my fucking shop in. Do you know what I mean? She can't say nothing about that.
This is where you see this. It's like an ex-gaming studio that I can have in the house.
I love this black shit. Do you know what I mean? I
dark
in black. It's great.
It's brilliant.
When I met Heather, my house was magnolia.
Right.
Everything was magnolia, and I love my art. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, you get that vibe of it.
So I used to buy a lot, not so much now because I don't get time. But I love housing and things like that, and I've got some art from a guy who's now training with housing. Okay. He came straight out of you call it the Academy of Arts or something. I'm
one of them.
I see what I like.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? Brooding dark shit. You know, Heather hates it. But so you put something on a wall. And I can change that without having to, no fucking wallpaper and I'll put a new picture up. That'll make it look different. But my shop's definitely, it's not as dark as I would maybe have it. Do you know what I mean? But I have to draw a line somewhere. They need to keep everybody kind of happy.
Aye, fair. When you're kind of looking back at the things that made the biggest difference in making Aroma so successful, what's the things that stand out for you? So consistency and quality. Environment, pandemic,
because that made me realise that people didn't think we were a food place.
Right.
They thought we were coffee and cake.
Got you.
I'm an analogue guy, right? Social media is the black arts to me. So we started talking to people, and luckily the staff I had at the time, I got them onto our Facebook, got them onto our Instagram, and we were posting pictures, bang, 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 all day long. Food. Phone would keep ringing. We got the app guys come in. Again, one of the young lassies come on, talk to me about this, tell me what's sitting in the meeting. She says it's well worth it. Let's go for it. You need to rely on
the generation coming up. They know their stuff.
That's what I'm doing now, because I keep saying I'm analog. I was brought up. There was no mobile phone in my hand at 20-year-old. No. Do you know what I mean? We had 3 channels in the telly. I remember Channel 4 opening. Do you know what I mean? So
big celebration of it.
Aye, mum. I remember the colour telly coming into us. Aye. And it's all the things that you have got for granted. I've grew up with. I mean, the cars I drive now are 1970 and 1980 motors. I love all that stuff. I'm a vintage guy.
Aye.
Maybe I'm trying to recapture some of my youth, but the pandemic was so good for me in the sense that it made us understand and learn about the social media.
Aye, so much more of the...
So much more. We've got a marketing company that does it for us now as well. I'm here today. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? This is, again, this is black arts to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you'll make sense of my babbling.
You're doing well. You're doing real well.
It's a... you could have laid down, and I was ready to lie down at the start of the pandemic, and I thought, no, I need to fight this. And with the young people running about me, they made it possible. And I can't stress that enough. You know, there was 3 cooks, Katie, Tamsin and Amy. Amy's left me. She's went away at a nursing home to do something else. Tamsin's now a school teacher, and Katie's now a qualified chef with us. And I'm so grateful to those people, because the rest of us can do the bit out the front, right? But they did the hard, heavy stuff. And, you know, I take my hat off to them, because they were young lasses. They had no social life. Mm-hmm. And the good thing for us was that they could socialise with each other. Mm-hmm. So it gave them a social life. They had a good bond, and they still run about together to
That's
this
good.
day. They were fantastic.
How hard has it been finding the right staff? Have you churned through a fair bit? Have you found out more about yourself as how to actually speak to people and all that? How's that been?
You know, as I say, I'm not PC. I left that in the 70s.
Right.
I'm still stuck in the 70s when it comes to things like that. And I find it easy to wind up young ones. Finding staff, we can be lucky, we can be unlucky. As I said before, I've tried to help people through the years, and I've gave people jobs that maybe other people wouldn't. And sometimes it's worked out, and sometimes it's not. I don't want to, I'm not going to name any names in like that, but I've had some real good successes with young people that I'm so proud of, and I've had some failures as well, and that makes me sad because the opportunity was there for them, but their peers. It's that you can't influence what goes on outside.
No, that's my biggest worry of being a father, actually.
Aye,
because I think about going to school, the pot of luck of gravitating towards the two friends that I had. It could have been two different friends, and we would have been smoking behind the sheds and all that. You know what I mean? And that could have led us down a path of drugs and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, wow, that actually made a massive impact just by having a bit of luck of who I hung about with.
Without doubt,
it can shape and change
like
everything.
Going back to the gym for a moment, when I was in, when I started back training again, maybe hit about 40, starting to get a bit.
I see changes in that, stronger.
People, steroids became so available, so tempting, because you see guys going,
aye,
and you're looking at it thinking, maybe, but I always said this, if it wasn't for the fact that heart problems run in my family, I could have been, it turned out it was my youngest brother that had the heart problem, right? But it could have been me. All my dad's family, my dad had a triple bypass by the time he was 58.
Right.
He had his first heart attack at 55. His brother died of a heart attack. Turns out my younger brother died of a heart attack as well. So if I hadn't known about that, I would have been severely tempted to try the steroids. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I'm still training.
Yeah.
The people that I know in that era who were taking it are fucked now.
Aye.
They've got hip problems. If they've not got heart problems, they've got breathing problems. There's all sorts of issues that it causes on long-term use. So I'm lucky that we had this heart problem in the Gilchrist family.
Oh, of course.
That it just
even the obsession over just trying to get bigger and bigger, like you got a little spotlight into that.
Aye.
And you're like, well, bigger doesn't mean healthier. Like
No,
that, and
no.
that's another misconception.
Mobility is, and again, as you're getting older,
Aye.
the mobility aspect of it. I mean, I can do things. When I did karate and stuff like that, I could do the splits. I could do
because you're moving in different planes of motion.
I can't do it now.
If you're just benching all day, like you're strong like that, but
Aye.
try and lift your hand above your head. And you can't do
My
that.
struggle now is to try and put my hands behind my head, because I did so many pull-ups and stuff like that, and I'm trying to stretch that out. But anyway, that's a different subject. But the steroid thing is an important one. I try and talk to young guys not to do it, because the case in point is me, 65, still training. 25.
Still healthy.
I know I knew a young boy, 21-year-old, dropped dead. 21-year-old.
It's crazy, and it's just that
We're all different.
we're chasing the dream that we see on social media. Oh, if I'm bigger, I'm going to get more.
The social media thing.
If I look this certain way, I'm going to get more attraction from the opposite sex. I'm going to get more validation. All this
You
sort of
talked
stuff.
about earlier, the social media side of it. This fantastic life they've got, that isn't really.
Yeah, it's fake.
They've got this picture in front of a big fucking picture behind them, making them look fantastic, and then they walk out. You know yourself, you're in the gym. Some gyms, you get your top off. Some gyms, the lighting will make you look fantastic.
Mate, that exposure gets turned down every time in a picture. As soon as I see it, I'm like, bodybuilder. It needs to be dark with the pump of the chest, just getting the shadow.
Maybe that's what I'm needing. Maybe you look twice as big.
No, good. So you still got Larko?
We've got it back.
Oh, so you did? You sold it for a period of time?
Sold it last October,
Right.
and then we got the keys back about 4 weeks ago.
How come? It was just
They fucked it.
Aye, they didn't work out.
They ruined the business.
Did you sell the actual
Sold
business?
them the business, aye.
Do you franchise it when you do that, or do you just give them?
We kind of we left them with the name,
Right.
because the name was what sold it, but they fucked it. But we've reopened it. My daughter and her husband have took it on.
Okay.
And they've turned into a wellness cafe.
Mm-hmm.
So they do a treatment area.
So this is going to be a question I had for you. So I've seen that you, over the last year or so, you been into the gym. Makes sense. You've done a lot of partnerships with gyms and coffees. Coffee and gains. I like the slogan that. And then I seen you started doing some gym stuff, so that makes sense. That's more of your daughter and your wife. Aye.
It's kind of something. I've always been into the gym and coffee, and coffee and gains. It was actually my last chef, the head chef, Kaylee, that came up with that name. It was just one day, and I've coffee gains. And we've kind of looked at the logo and stuff like that and changed that a wee bit. But I went back to the old logo because I like the muscle.
The muscle,
it looks a bit better. And it's one of those things that it's never going to be Gymshark.
No.
Never.
Be a bit of fun. If
I sell one a fortnight, I'm doing well. Do you know what I mean? But it's just fun. Mm-hmm. When Heather did when she's doing her PT thing, that makes it sound what it is. When she does her PT,
she gets more into.
She's got the Coffee Gains Fitness now. Mm-hmm. And Jason, do you know Jason?
I see he's done a couple of t-shirts for me. He's great.
For her. Well,
he's brilliant.
Jason,
good young kid.
And I've tried to help Jason as much as I can. Do you know what I mean? I've put people his way and stuff like that, and hopefully I try and buy stuff off him. He's a trier, and he seems to be doing well now, which I'm delighted about. No,
he's doing good. He's going down the right route of kind of networking, especially in the fitness space. We always need t-shirts, we always need merch.
He's doing well, and
logos change every 2 weeks as well, so he's like, jackpot, another 2 t-shirts, another t-shirt order, should I say.
Well, it's like my staff lose their stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like I got nice sweatshirts done for them, and then they come in, and I wandered in the shop the other week there, and there was a couple of sweatshirts there, another couple of dirty sweatshirts just lying about, so I've got them all washed and put them all away, and I'm waiting for somebody to ask me.
I'll get you one.
Here's your sweatshirt. I gave you it already.
Manny used to do that a lot in Gym 24.
It's
like, I've lost that t-shirt. I'll just take a new one for there. And I think he was like, you're at it. And then when I was leaving, I was like, I've got like 17 t-shirts here. I thought I only had 2. So see, if you think back to like when you were a kid, what was your dreams growing up? Like, what was something you always wanted to do?
Oh, Jesus.
Did you have like any like, was there any standout passion?
I remember I wanted to be a film cameraman. That's the only thing I remember. I wanted to be involved in the movies. And the college courses, which were then, you had to be 18 and you had to have 2 years experience of working with cameras and things like that. But asking my mum and dad to buy a camera that was worth a fortune.
Wasn't it practical?
No, we didn't have the money. And I always remember my dad saying to me, no, you'll get a job in the factory, son. You'll get an apprenticeship. Because once you've done your apprenticeship, you can do whatever you want after that. And they're lying to themselves. But that was the generation. Because the school gates would open up and everybody would leave, and all the factory gates would open up and everybody would just divide into these places. Right. So dreams and aspirations were, get to next week.
That was it squashed almost.
It was, and you want to go to, how are you going to afford to go to uni? How are you going to afford to go to college if you're not making money? And that money was always an issue. It was, we weren't brought up with wealth. Working class, it's the best way to get brought up because you respect the value of a pound. I maybe don't respect that enough. I've thrown so much away, but hopes and aspirations. In my generation, it was meet a girl, get married, have kids. That was it. You got a job in a factory, and that's where you were for the rest of your days. I mean, when I was 16, I went into Anderson Strathclyde and an apprentice fitter, and I great when I got home.
Oh, did you?
It broke my heart. Broke my heart. It was. I knew that first day this was not what I wanted to do in my life. I couldn't believe, and you're talking to guys that
they've been at it for 30, 40 years.
60-year-old, my age now. 60. You worked. I should be retired according to the government when I started. At 65, people would work up to 65, and that'd be the retirement age. So you'd be dealing with people from 16 to 65. That's what I think the great thing is about peers right? When I was 16, my peers were a whole
Aye.
wide range group. Nowadays, a 16-year-old's peers are 16-year-olds. They're not getting an outlook.
Aye, different workplace or different
different mindsets,
peoples, aye.
different and skills of people. They don't see that because they stick with their. I have a nephew who's 23 and his pals are still the ones he was at school with.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the ones that were at school with me are all dead now. I'm not sure, but I think it's kind of it's a different era altogether.
Oh no, it's crazy. I remember growing up and me and my friend were friends with guys like 3 years older than us, and they could all drive cars, and we weren't at the age where we could do our lessons yet.
Aye.
But boys being boys, you go to the car park and say, "Here, this is how you drive." As soon as we could have our lessons, every single one of us passed within 10 lessons because we had the experience from.
Aye.
Maybe not the best
Aye.
way to go about it, but it just shows you like the power of what that can do.
Aye,
as
changing
time
gears
goes
and
on.
all that kind of
Aye.
stuff that you learn
What did you learn from then?
from.
Being in that first job, what was it that you had learned from them, or maybe what you didn't want to do, like, from the sounds of it?
I learned something I didn't want to do, where I didn't want to be, and I was still in there for 8 years. 4-year apprenticeship, and then 4 years after that, because I was in that.
You felt committed, aye.
Of met a girl,
This is what you do.
Get married, but I learned so much about people, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's some nasty people in factories who would bully young guys.
Call it banter.
Aye,
It's the word.
aye.
Shit.
But it toughened you up, and I think we're no tough enough now. The generations come up now, but I'm maybe biased. Do you know what I mean? But certainly, there was some really genuine, funny guys, and there's an old guy, Geordie Arbuckle, and he played football during the war.
Right.
He was a professional footballer. I think it was Dundee United or something, and he was a labourer in ABs and Clyde, and he was the funniest man I've ever met.
Aye.
He should have been on a stage, and the patter was filthy. You know what I mean? Absolutely filthy. But you're looking at a guy who was in his late 50s then, but looked older. Bow-legged. You don't see that anymore.
No.
But he'd come away with these one-liners and you'd be buckled. You just couldn't move for laughing. And I think it was the fact that he was so old. And that time at 16, he was like an old man saying these things. It was just hilarious. And you see some disgusting things as well. Just men being men, right? But which I think is horrible. I've never been a man's man. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't live in the wilds, and I fucking hate camping. Give me a bit of luxury. But I've always enjoyed women's company more than guys. I've very few friends, real close friends. I don't know why, because every time you move on in life, you can have a move on.
Yeah.
Because when I was working in places, I'd be working in Edinburgh, I'd be working in Glasgow or Paisley or something like that. So you'd never see these people again after that. I don't keep in touch. I'm quite, I don't know.
I guess that's maybe one thing that I'm grateful for with social media, but even with that, you're not really in touch. You just see pictures of their life, and that's it. That's about it.
I've got my best pal. I saw him 2 weeks ago, and it was the first time I seen him in 13 years.
What was that?
He lives in Solihull.
Right.
And I used to go up and down. I was the best man at his wedding. He's now divorced. I'm divorced. And, but he's got so much insight into my life. Because when I phoned him up and saying I was getting divorced, I was separated, he went, "That's long overdue."
Yeah.
He knew. And there's a lot of folks said that to me, not enough, but he knew. And I met his girlfriend 2 weeks ago. He's been out with her for 10 years or something. But see, when I meet him, it's as if I've just been last week. And I'm going to go down there and see him next year. But it's strange. So
see the years of like long periods of time and not seeing someone you consider your best friend, then kind of newfound perspective on your life just now. Are you wanting to make more of an effort with that now, or just are you happy to kind of let it play out as is?
I'm happy just to let it play out as is, because I don't know. It's like my efforts go in my marriage because I failed the first time. I don't want to fail the second time, and my business because I do believe that you need to keep focusing on business, because I'm not one of these people that's ever going to be able to go hands off.
I was going to ask you, do you have a retirement plan? No.
I'm hoping they're stepping over my body to serve the last customer and stuff me and put me in the corner.
Hang you on the wall.
I'll be the next mascot. I can't think of anything worse. I was ill a couple of years ago. They diagnosed me with prostate cancer and then testicular cancer, and then it turned out it wasn't.
All right.
But I had 3 months.
Lull.
But I was really ill, and so I wasn't working. I wasn't working much. I was still working, but not working much because I was in a lot of pain. But I learned from that, the old saying, a rolling stone gathers no moss, because the moss grew on me. And trying to get myself moving again, that was it. It's made my mind up that I can't stop.
Do you think retirement kills people?
Yeah. Every time. I mean, how many people do you see retiring 2 months later?
Their health just deteriorates.
I was I was doing some coffee training over in a place in Uddingston, and an old guy came in with pushing a pram, the great Granway or something like that, and he went, I was talking to the guy, and he went, "This has been lumped on me," and he says, "I love her." He says, "But I said I'd do it once." He says, "Now every Monday, this wind's dropped off."
Aye.
And I've got her for the whole day, and now she's talking to me about doing it on Thursday as well. And I've got 2 grandchildren, and I've got another one in the way, and I feel really guilty because I don't spend a great deal of time with them. But the lifestyle they've got is because I work. So how do I balance?
I know it's a balancing act.
Aye.
I imagine it's never a straight line. Some areas you're not seeing them as much, and then other areas you go holidays and probably make some core memories with them.
We have some good times, but I struggle a bit with it because I know what the traditional role is, but I struggle to do that because my life's so full.
Yeah,
and I know that's wrong because I feel guilty.
Yeah,
and I'm trying, but I'm maybe not trying hard enough.
So you can do though, isn't it? So
I like what I do.
Make an effort, yeah.
I might know of tomorrow, so I just let me do what I want to do.
Yeah,
I'll provide as much as I can.
Aye. So see if this was like something abruptly happened and you only had like a short time to live, would you still go on the trajectory that you're on, doing everything that you're doing?
I would. When I get diagnosed with cancer, I run about getting wills done, getting leases sorted out, putting people, letting people know in a will what I want to happen. I think it would depend on what that short trajectory would be, but it's almost like the Eskimo. You'd really want to just get your business settled and then go away. Mm-hmm. Don't let people see you wither. Don't let people see you fall. That's something that's going to happen. But I've seen people wither and fail, and I don't want
that to be the last memory type of thing.
No. That would be horrible because the picture in your head is that one. Mm. We only remember good things. No, you don't.
Yeah, I can imagine you remember that last your brothers picture. And that. Yeah.
I see my brothers in their graves. I see my brothers sitting in their coffins. I see my uncle who died of cancer, how frail and what happened to him. So, give me a pill. Hmm. So, I'm just getting a bit dark now.
Yeah, you have another 40, 50 years at least. Aroma will be his own town at one point. We have it.
Sorry.
Speaking of that then, so what's sort of next for where you're at with business? So you pivoted into like selling coffee to like some gyms and some other places. How did that come about, and is that something you want to grow more of?
It came about as a kind of a wee tester. Somebody asked me, could you do it? And I went, aye, we can do it. I think it was Manny at Gym 24. I think that was the first. It was Manny. Aye. And he says, I really want to create a coffee bar. So we looked at that and thought, well, it's easy for us to do. We're just round the corner. We've got the coffee machines. I've always got coffee machines that I can sell. Mm-hmm. Me and my mate do that, just as a wee sideline. and it works really well. But you have to continually train, and that's the hard bit, because when you change staff, you have to train them.
Right, because you need to, because they're making
brand. Aroma Coffee.
Aye.
And that's, we're trying to kind of...
I loved it, but I never went through the proper training. I was like, coffee's coffee to me. And I was like, I'll make it my way. And then somebody would ask, and I'm like, where is everybody? Where's Kenny? Yeah.
Well, Heather, my wife, she spends a lot of time with people,
right,
training. And, see, for barista training, companies will charge a fortune.
Well, do they? Is it?
They charge, there's big money. You're talking about £125 a day. Just to train one person.
Well.
We can charge that. And I don't charge anywhere near that. But it's a proper training we give, because we are into, it's about that end product. You taste it, you want to taste Aroma Coffee. You don't want to taste a Starbucks shit or some better crap that Costa.
I must admit, I do love a nice latte. For Starbucks, I don't know what it is. It's just milk. It's just milk.
what you're buying is a sugar flavoured drink. You're not buying a coffee. No. In Starbucks is chemically enhanced beyond its proper degree.
You've got the true good stuff.
Look at the ingredients. I sat in Starbucks in Silverburn a few years ago. Out of interest, I got a double espresso, which I couldn't drink. It's fucking vile stuff.
That's shit.
And anybody who likes coffee will tell you that.
Aye.
But you watch the queue. Nobody buys a coffee. They buy some super sweet, sugared, flavoured pumpkin
spices and all sorts.
Do you know what I mean? Or and they're charging them £7, £8.
Well, that's the thing. It becomes. I think people buy it out of. It's the brand. Like they know they know what they're getting when they get it.
The interesting thing for me is when you look at the world now, the brand is failing a wee bit. They're starting to get kick. There's a bit of kickback on them now, and it's sort of do in America.
Well, yeah. So I was just back from done a wee trip down San Francisco. That seen Vegas, literally in one place. I think there's maybe about 8 Starbucks. Like it's crazy.
I was in Boston.
Couldn't believe it.
My daughter would have been 5, so 30 years ago I was in Boston, America, and literally Starbucks.
Crazy. Everywhere.
And, remember the Simpsons thing?
Aye.
It's exactly
That's what's happening.
Fucking Starbucks everywhere.
Aye.
But they're a machine.
Aye, it's just copy and paste.
Aye, and that's I've always said, for the minute I opened in Wishaw or anywhere, these machines need to keep rolling. So eventually the city centres will be saturated. Eventually they will start to creep into the small towns. And that's what's happening now.
Which is
drive-throughs.
Aye,
there's a drive-through in Wishaw as well.
Is it? Is that just opened up? Oh, so it is. Yeah, I remember.
So you've got these things, and I love it when they talk about how many jobs they're creating. And they actually don't create any jobs. They get some school kids in, they pay them minimum wage, and they split their shifts.
They churn them around.
And churn them out. I'm employing 24 people at Wishaw in my one wee shop, my wee cafe, as some folk like to call it. That's important to me. We support local football teams. We support local boxing clubs. I've sponsored a young boxer as well. I'm trying to give something back to the people of the town, and hopefully I get something back from it. You know what I mean? It's all about marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the thing for me is keep going. These big machines, they don't give a fuck about them.
No. Does it affect you when Costa is in the big chains like Starbucks opening up?
No. And that's been quite surprising to me. Because everybody said when Costa's opened up in the main street in Wishaw, that's going to have an effect on you. The same in Larkhall, they opened in Larkhall, and I could not have told you what day they opened. I could not tell you if they're still open or shut down.
And do you think that's because of what you've built from within?
It's this thing where we are no Costa. If you want a sandwich or a toastie that's been packed in a factory down south, refrigerated,
but taste factory, it tastes like a copy and paste machine.
Exactly.
even the cakes and everything.
So if you want something that's built in a factory, then Costa's your thing. And I get it, because uniformly, if you're in a strange town, Costa, I know that name. I've been in many small towns and searched out the small bistro, the small coffee shop, and I'm sad to say, 8 times out of 10 disappointed with what I'm getting.
Yeah.
You know, I was in Carlisle and this coffee guru, and I thought, let me try this.
A great chance here.
Awful. You know, but then coffees, because of the variations in flavour of different beans and the way they're mixed and matched and all that kind of thing, you can just have that wasn't for me, that flavour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it could be for you. So I'm not going to, I did knock them, but I didn't mean to knock them like that. But, you know, it's a flavour that I didn't like. It's like Costa and Starbucks. So
see, when you're running Aroma and doing your own business, there's obviously, where do you draw the line with not stepping into like their types of models to increase your margins? Like you said, quality was a big thing that, do you think that's maybe where some cafes and coffee shops go wrong, where they're like, oh, we could save X amount of money if we make this part of our process a wee bit more efficient with a copy and paste type of model like that?
You know, I think it's easy to copy. You know what I mean? We can all look at what you're doing. I'm just going to go and do that, but I'm not you. You know, Starbucks have a booklet, fucking booklets of how to run their business, and you cannot deviate from that. Why would you want your business like that? My business is flexible. It's organic. It moves. You know, we create a menu, and 6 months' time, you say, right, what's been working, what's not been working, right? What can we change in that?
Yeah.
I love all that. That's part of the challenge of it. Mixing and matching flavours and being part of that process is the fun.
It's fun.
It's
part of running.
Whereas somebody gives you a book and says, that's how you run your business. Franchise. You know, I've had guys at me before, they're saying, we want to franchise your business, we want you to be the franchise leader. So you can't, because I changed too much. You know, but you can do this and do that, but then it's no Aroma. It doesn't, it becomes something else, the Aroma franchise, but it's no Aroma, because I don't want any more than one place.
Well, there's proof, like in the Lanarkshire place, like someone try to think that they can come in and just we can run our coffee shop like the same. We can do
the business was there. It worked, but you have to.
Standards will drop and all this sort of stuff.
You have to be there. That's the thing, and they were told that you have to be there. No business runs itself unless you've got somebody who manages it, and you're talking to them all the time, and they're the face. If they're not the face, you need to be there, and you need to be the face to do it.
Yeah,
I've got a team now where I've got a really good manager. She's brilliant. She runs it better than I do, because she's focused. I've got a head chef now, Jake, who again, he's just taken over the mantle. He's worked for me for a few years, but we had a head chef that's left, and now he's taken over, and it's been good to have. He's flourished, you know, but he's saying, I want this flavour, I like that flavour. Let's do it. You know, encourage that, because that his growth will be my growth.
Yeah, it plays into the team game
without doubt. And he's got the team working together again. Don't copy anybody. Be inspired by. That's what you know.
Yeah,
there are loads of people or loads of businesses that can inspire you. I want to be a bit like that, but my take will be. Don't try and steal their idea.
It's inspiration.
I see my food everywhere now.
I do. Salt and chilli.
Salt and chilli, chicken, and you see this
sriracha sauce and all that. And you're like, that plate looks familiar.
It looks hell of a familiar. But that's flattery.
You need to see it's flattery. And
without doubt.
So you're wasting energy if it's anything else.
Because we'll produce something else now, and we are. We've got new ideas, new concepts that are all coming through. But it's all based in Wishaw. Why do I need to be in 5 places? So
this is interesting, because everybody always thinks when you want to run your own thing. Take the coaching space, for example. A lot of people kind of default into, right, I'll get a coach working for me, we can help more people, yada yada, and then I'll manage coaches. And it's like, why are we thinking that far ahead? Like, why don't we focus on helping the people that come through to you first of all, and expanding from there? So have you ever was there ever anything that crossed your mind to want to open tons of locations, or how did that change, or what made that change? Because I think about this sometimes, I'm like, I could open another studio on another side.
I wanted 5 places.
Just because of magic number.
Aye, there was just something about 5. But trying to find that location, right? But again, it was kind of a scale. I was ready to do it. It's maybe about 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And I thought, this was the opportunity. Just when Heather opened Lark, I thought that. And then I started looking at okay, if I own more places, I've got the wages, I've got the overhead, I've got all of that stuff involved. So what's the profitability in that? Is it worth it? To me, is it worth it? And I sat down and had a long think about it. I thought, it's not worth it to me. Because if somebody phones in sick there and they can't make that day,
Achilles heel.
The chef does a do-wally and decides to storm out, I need to go. So how's that enhancing my life? Give me another £10,000 a year. If it gave me that, do you know what I mean? Then I need to tax it and then all that. So in reality, what am I getting for that? But grief. I don't need the grief.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because somebody with age, but I don't lack an ambition. I've always said that if the right location come up, I would take it. I've just never seen the right location yet. And then, the pandemic came. We were just about to do Aroma nighttime. I was bringing chefs in and we were going to open at night and go for a drink slices. Pandemic hit. I was that away for opening and the pandemic hit. So that's, life's warning. Don't take everything for granted. Mm-hmm. And, luckily, it didn't, luckily in a sense, it didn't work out. But that was on the plan. And because I thought at night time, daytime, because everybody's asked me to open at night. And I was working on a different menu for night time. And so now maybe I'm just getting a bit old. Aye. And I want a wee bit more free time. And if somebody could take my business and make it a franchise, good luck to them. I can't do it.
So what is the next big plans for you? Is there anything, or is it sort of just to keep going with?
I think for the change of head chef,
right.
So Jake is getting himself installed because a different dynamic,
of course,
and also he's got a different vision.
I was going to say, because I remember Manny having this conversation with me that he always used to go back and he says, see, if I opened a chicken shop, it'd bring in way more money than what this gym brings in. And I was like, that's insane, because I always wanted to own a gym, and actually working under Manny, and so grateful for him because he was very open and honest about everything that came into the business. And so you see the top line, you see the top line number and you're like, oh, that's class. And he's like, how about you get this, you get payroll, you get electricity, and like that. I better have been a coach. I better have been a personal trainer. But he says the biggest crux of the restaurant business was the chef side of things. Has that been the biggest challenge? For yours?
I only really went down the chef route because what happened was with Aroma, it was me. I'm a passionate cook. I'm not a chef. I train myself. And so the young girls who were working during the pandemic, for example, were all trained by me.
Got you.
We brought them in, I trained them, and I worked in the kitchen with them for years. And then I made the decision, right, we need to professionalise this a bit.
Be more streamlined.
Because I wanted out the kitchen. I didn't want to spend my life in the kitchen. I'm too old for it.
Sriracha sauce all the time.
They'll not taste it. It's burnt, just put sriracha on it. So then I looked for a head chef, and this girl came along, Kaylee, and she was right up my street. We got on really well. And she ex-footballer, but really good chef. And she came in and she did things the right way. She came in with the young team that I had and worked with them, and then started to train them, started to work with them. There was a wee bit of resistance, obviously, because the three of them were tighten it after the pandemic. And why the girls left, but she wanted to move on to do something else anyway. Amy, she left. So Kaylee came in, and then she basically took what I was doing and just, I say chefified it, made it look a bit more presentable, had a different style, and she
Instagram worthy.
And then she separated people into teams, and the team into sections, and then gave them more
proper operational and all that,
more professional approach, where I'd say, you do that, I'll do that, you do that, and that worked really well. And then we wrote a new menu, which is still about 80% of what we used to do. a 20% part of what she was doing, and then she decided she was invited to go and work somewhere in Glasgow, so that was only about 2 or 3 months ago.
Oh, so that's fairly
quite recent. But Jake's been there for a while. So Jake was a head chef in an Italian restaurant. So he came in, he was wanting a wee bit an easier life. I keep getting this. And now he's got to the stage where he's ready to step. He wants more.
Good.
And I love his enthusiasm. And his sauces, I can't make them. Do an extra one, I'll take that in with me.
I was telling Jillian you were coming on. She's like, we need to get back to Northern. I was like, I know. I was like, I told you I'm going to drive over probably some point this week when she's back. She finishes work this week and she's going to come. She's now coming full time. So this is the next chapter for us. So we'll celebrate by coming over.
Good.
So if someone's going to, would you say if someone's going to set up their own coffee house or a similar cafe type business to what you do, is it a good business model for someone that has an aspirations to do it?
Yeah, but I think what everybody misses, I hear this all the time, right? Oh, I'd love to retire and open my wee coffee shop. And
as if it's a wee side hustle that you can just sort of...
The minute I thought, this has been my dream to do this. And, you know, we got delivered in on Saturday, and a guy that I know was in, and he went, this mountain of stuff, all delivered in the lashes are all around about putting things away and all that. And he went, what's that for? I says, that's for today and tomorrow. He went, well, just today in the morning? I went, aye. I says, I'm still waiting on a delivery coming. And he's like, how the fuck do you work all this out? I said, well, we've got a process. We know what's going and what's not going. He said, I didn't think it would be... How many folk you work? And the kind of a start
more
to go,
to it,
aye, there's more to it than just making a coffee. And even making the coffee is a process that people shock me. When, it's... Somebody, you go in to do training with people and they go, how hard is it to make a coffee? Oh, man, I'll show you how hard that is. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and
well overlooked then.
I love it when they make an arse of it. I mean, they boil the milk or this is how hard it is. You have to concentrate, eyes, ears, touch. I don't use thermometers when I'm training people.
I say it's like an art, isn't it? I remember the first time watching you train one of the girls in Gym 24.
I love it.
I was like, I've been doing that wrong.
I don't. You know, the thing is, it's like I very rarely make coffee now. They kind of kick me out. But I watch them and it's beautiful.
The art to it.
Aye.
Do you ever think this would be like a big passion and driver of you? Because you do love the art of coffee, which is mad, isn't it?
I love it's people I like. And being in hospitality means we should be hospitable. I had this chat with a Greek lady, and when we were on Rhodes, and I said, you people are very friendly. Because I found everywhere I went, I found the Greek people friends. She says, we are very hospitable. And I thought,
that's a word I like.
We are hospitable. That's what hospitality is all about.
Absolutely.
And, we people forget that. They open the bin, they're having a bad day and they take it out on customers, they take it out on their staff. I can be a grumpy bastard, but they'll tell me and I'll know and I'll fuck off.
You'll do you are and take myself out of this situation.
I need to go, but I love people and it sounds crazy because I'll always say, I fucking hate folk. But the stories that I hear from people on a daily basis, the patter,
the interaction,
that's what keeps you going.
Seeing them grow up as well, that must be so surreal.
Amazing. It's amazing. I'm looking at talking to a guy the Big Mick, and I used to give him a rolling sausage, double sausage. It was a baguette with double sausage and a can of Coke. He was 12-year-old. He's in the shop with his partner, and she's pregnant, and he's 30-year-old now, or maybe he's 31. I can't remember. I'm doing the thing, but. And I look around me sometimes and I see kids who were coming into Munchies, and I love the fact that there's still a relevance to us, that we've that's...
it's just that wee old roll shop that you used to go to. Because I think back to all the places I went to. So I went to Coltness High, and all the places round about where we went to, I don't even think they're their shops that do food anymore. It was like
Aye.
maybe some of the wee corner shops that offered like pot noodles and rolls and that sort of stuff. I don't even think they would do much of that anymore, which is crazy. So there's also a lot that plays into that success as to where you've taken it. And when you look back, is there how many, or is there any like big opportunities that you went, oh man, I've missed a winner there? Anything that jumps out?
No, because that would be looking in the rearview mirror. You know, I've only got time for what's in front of me. I think that there are things that's happened to me in life.
Maybe the better way of reframing this is like served as a lesson then to make you project forward with it. Tons.
You know, I've probably talked about it already. You know, people like Brian Dempsey, you know, bereavement, all of these things make you who you are. And you know, divorce is a big learning cycle about yourself as well. So there's loads of things, but I can't dwell on nothing because it just depresses me. You know, I want to keep going for as long as I can. You know, the strange thing is that it's almost like I realise my immortality. You know, I'm grateful for having today. If I get tomorrow, I'm grateful for that. I find it difficult to plan. People talk about planning in front. My wife hates it. She's a lot younger than me, and you know, next year, and we'll go and we'll do this.
Just think about this weekend before we go.
We're going to Seville in a week's time or something like that. That's what I'm thinking about. You know, and I can't think 5 years from now when I'll be 70.
Are you scared at all? Getting older?
I'm fighting it.
Are you fulfilled?
Is anybody ever fulfilled? I think that I'm no scared of dying. I'm scared of the way I die. That's reality. Fulfillment. There's times when I look at my granddaughter and I feel at ease. You know, and that's an old cliche, right? But she's beautiful. You know, but she's a wee bastard at the same time.
He's the one to get it on the Monday and the Thursday then.
I look at her sometimes and it lasts 5 seconds or something like that. And then she gives it away. But, you know, my daughter has been challenging. You know, I mean, she's had her ups and downs over the years. And if she's happy, I'm happy. She suffered the same as me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? She also lost her mother as well because her mother doesn't talk to her.
Oh, right, okay.
So there's a lot of loss for her as well. So, but she's a good person and she's trying hard to be even better. So I'm looking forward to what she's doing at Lanarkshire. I think the Wellness Cafe will be something a bit different. And she's wanted to do it for years. This opportunity is there, so let's do it.
That's good. That'll be exciting. That'll be really exciting.
Now,
one thing I did want to ask you was, not coming from a huge amount of money, going through and being very successful in business, have you ever been like materialist? Was there ever anything you're like, once I make X, I want to buy that? Did you ever have any of those?
You know, mate, we all want the big house. We all want all of these things. You know, I'm a watch collector.
Right. I'm
really bad for that. But I try and be clever with watches.
Because they're investments as well,
I try and be clever with them. But the reality, I had a Jaguar that I always wanted, the S-Type Jaguars, old man's car. But when I was growing up, that was the car. And I had a Rolex watch. And I was stuck at traffic lights one day in Hamilton when I was going through my divorce. And I'm stuck at and I'm looking at this Jaguar logo. And I looked at my watch, the Rolex watch, and I went, these mean fuck all to me.
Right, yeah, good.
Really mean nothing to me. And I went home and I put the Jaguar into the car market. The following week I went into the car market and I took the watch to a jeweller and I sold the two of them. And I bought a £400 van and I ran about in that for 2 years. None of it. all that materialistic bullshit.
Crazy, isn't it? And I think in today's age, it's way more distorted.
These guys nowadays.
I've never been really that materialistic. The most expensive thing I've bought is gym equipment.
Aye.
Been nice holidays and that, of course. My dog, Cooper, house, all that sort of stuff. But I wonder why so many people are. Don't get me wrong, I want to have like nice things. I want to go on nice holidays, but I don't know if I could ever see myself like that being what all that life's about, just all this materialistic stuff. So it's crazy.
Think it's your Instagram generation and the Twitter and whatever. I don't know these things, but they're creating this
distorted look.
Your Kardashians. I'm happy to say I've never seen an episode of that.
Sadly, I have, because I've seen it on TV.
But all these times, made in Chelsea. I see them advertised, and I think these are vacuous people that we should be ignoring instead of lauding as something special. I moved into an ex-council house 15 years ago. I said to my mummy, I'm going for a year. It was my brother's house. I'm going for a year. I'll get it done up. Then I'm going to get myself something nice. I'm still there.
Aye.
I have no interest in moving.
Aye, doesn't it?
Means nothing now.
So where do you like to spend your money now? Like on is it more experiences? And what life can get?
To spend my money
back in business, different coffee beans.
usually what I find is it usually goes back into Aroma. That's the fucking something's broke down. You need to replace something.
So
man's cheap now.
It's something I actually struggle with a wee bit, because I made some good money like within the business over the last couple of years or the last year, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to spend that. I want to buy the new set of lights, the next podcast equipment. I want to level up the business. How have you balanced that over the years, or has it just been something that you've not really found balance with? I've
not found balance with
just
it. If something needs done, I just do it. If we need it, we need it now. And this thing, let's get it fixed. No, fuck it, get a new one, because I can get that tomorrow.
Right. Okay. Aye. So speed and efficiency.
When's this guy going to turn up?
Yeah.
So it's a bit like that. My house is a different ballgame altogether. Who gives a fuck? I'm the only one that sees inside it. My wife is now, she's been replacing carpets, replacing this, replacing that. She's getting all this done. She wants a nice house. I get it. Do you know what I mean? But I thought it was a nice house anyway.
Aye.
But I don't. But, family. I spend a lot of money in family. I try and make sure that they're all right, and that's what will continue, because I would much rather that people get things they know than when I'm dead, because then I can't see what they've done with it. So if
don't get to be a part of it either.
And I'm enjoying that side of it. It is better to, it sounds old saying, and it's better to give than to receive. I don't like it. Don't give me anything. Just let me help you. And it's been a fault in the past with helping people. No,
I know it's the hard thing of trusting someone, but you can't, as much as there might be a handful of situations. I think that's why you're where you are today, because of that personality trait that you do have.
I hope so, because I hope when people think about me, they think about me fondly, and that I've tried to help.
No, that's good. So last question I'll finish on is, which ties nicely into that. What are some misconceptions people have of you? I think when anyone's doing well in life, there's always shade thrown. I don't know if it's our culture. I don't know if it's just you see a nice Aroma doing really well. You see he's pivoting, doing great things, or whatever it is. It's like, it can almost, people can try and tarnish a name. What was some misconception people have about you?
Honestly, mate, I don't know. Apart from it, I was gay for a long time. That everybody said I was gay, and I never denied it, because I didn't see the need to. I'm a big George Michael fan, so really, he went a long time before he felt he was gay. But I'm no gay. But that did go around for a while, and there was.
What do you think that came from? Do you think that was just because the people were trying to?
I think
do the usual.
I think I've always been a dresser. I like to dress well, in a culture that Disney. So when you're a bit different, then you're obviously something wrong with you. So it's
because you're hanging about the younger ones. You're saying, that's good style. I'm gonna copy that.
And, well, it's kind of I've got my own sense of things. I've always been like that though. I think it's like when you train, I train for the aesthetic. I want to look good in clothes. You know what I mean? So I think look good. And it doesn't cost a great deal to look good. People have this misconception you're spending a fortune. I don't wear designer shit. Fuck that. I think these trousers are boho or whatever it is. Boohoo. I call it boho. They all laugh at me. 20 quid or something like that. You know, t-shirts, Zara, £12. It's not a £200. I'm going to somebody's shop and I think, what?
Yeah, you're like, I can get a coffee machine for that price.
I can get a coffee machine for something.
And I can turn that into X, Y, Z.
I mean, if you know, so I really, and I don't care. You know, it's like, I used to train Wishaw YM.
I remember that, yeah.
That was a right old man's gym, and I loved it.
It was a pure spitting sawdust gym, I remember
and you walk in there, and they would send the young guys there, you gay, Lindsay? So I'm not telling you now, but I'll be in the showers in an hour. Come on, I'll tell you then. Do you know what I mean?
That's probably where that came from, yeah.
But it's just because you dress well and look after yourself. You know, how many folk do we see nowadays with the same t-shirt on for days on end, and because they've been sitting in front of an Xbox, their eyes are peeling. Talking about you here.
It's the same t-shirt, turn it inside out though.
You've turned it too many
times. No, good. Well, look, it's been a pleasure having you. I think there's a lot of lessons and learnings people get away from this conversation, and I think it's actually nice seeing this side because you never really get to sit down and go, oh, actually I didn't really know that about that. So hopefully a lot of people have taken something away for sure.
I hope so.
And I don't think you need to worry about anything happening to your dying soon or anything like that. You're gonna outlive us all, I think.
Me and the cockroaches.
Well, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you.